Alright guys, TacticalRab here today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The second weekend of Major 4 qualifiers is over and we may well have a new favourite to lift the trophy come Major 4 in just a couple of weeks' time. 2 bounty games today, massively important matches in terms of the way the rest of the season's going to play out. So much to dive into, very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to discuss. Let's talk LAG versus Vegas first of all. This was of course a must-win for Vegas after losing to London in shocking fashion just yesterday. They needed to win this series and they lost the game 1 at aBeZy and I was like, oh my god, here we go. The vibes did not look good. Clay did not look happy. Temp had its hands on his head immediately after just game 1, but thankfully for Vegas, their search and destroy was disgusting, and this Guerrillas team, when they first formed, I thought they would be better in search than they were in respawn, to be honest, but it turns out their search is pretty bad. But Vegas are unreal in this mode. It's kind of tragic in a way that if they were just good at control, Vegas would actually be a legitimate, possibly a top 6 team, but their control woes just completely kill their chances, I think, and their consistency isn't really there as well. Thankfully for them though, TJ is him in search and destroy. Like, I don't know why this guy can't pick up his controller in the same way the respawns, but in search he's out of control. They 6-0'd them, smoked him off the face of the earth here in game 2, and comfortably went into the control with absolutely the momentum in the series. And they started off with a nice round 1 in control. He thought, okay, here we go, finally a win might be on the boards. They were on, what, a 9 control loss streak going into this series, and they found a way to make it 10. I don't know what they were doing. The game 3 or the round 3 here, they trolled it away, and I mean, look, Arcitys dropped 3 kills on this map yesterday. This is just the thing with Vegas' control. I don't know why it's so bad. They lost it to a coach, and they've now lost it to a guy who literally dropped 3 kills on this map just yesterday. Today he drops 27 in 12 with 22 non-traded, so just Vegas Legion things in control. No discredit from Arcitys, right? But I mean, it's kind of funny how that works, right? Then he goes from one day dropping 3 on, I believe, the same map mode combination against Thieves to dropping 27 the very next day for a comfortable game 3 win. And this was, I mean, look, Guerrillas, we know they're chalked, right? We know this team isn't making champs, but for Vegas, there's still the chance there, and they just needed to bounce back. And credit to Vegas where it is due, because these 2 maps they want to close out the series might prove to be 2 of the most crucial that they played this entire season, to be honest, right? They were down 2-1 to Guerrillas, an absolute must-win situation. They clutched up game 4 Hydro, and they closed out another dominant search and destroy. I thought this was going to be a 6-0 again, and we were going to have a 12-0, just like what happened with that, FaZe versus Thieves series last year. It was, I think it was Bacage game 5, and Octane dropped the double donuts, all that good stuff. It looked like Vegas were going to do it again, but JoeDeceives somehow clutches a 1v3 with an ace to keep them alive, and I thought, oh my god, please, like, if Legion choked this somehow, this would be the worst choke of all time, especially given the situation for their season. And even then, up 5-1, Clay did not look happy. They eventually win, and credit to Clay. I know that Clay was still getting hyped. It must be half of those guys, right? Because you feel like, oh, they should be getting more hype, their vibe should be better, but they're playing from their own apartments, like halfway across the world, well, halfway across America, right? It's really not ideal for these guys. They don't have a facility, they can't fist bump each other, like, just the lack of Vegas investment into that resource does affect, I believe, especially their online play. I think they're much better on LAN than they are online in general, and that's one of the things that holds them back, I think, from really getting into the headspace and the communication space they need to be in. But as Clay says, some cheddar, right? 10k for the bounty game, but the 10 points will mean more to them in terms of championship qualification. As he says, first win other than the Marquee B one that we've gotten against a team lower than us, which is massive for them. They need to beat the teams below them. They're now 2-1. If they beat, I believe they play Florida and then Toronto. If they beat Florida, they should be good for winners, right? If they get to 3 wins, they'll be good for winners, and that's a must win, of course, again for them. But if they can get 3 wins or even 4, and Minnesota only get 2 or potentially 3, then they still have a chance here. So massively important series for the Vegas Legion, and also this creates some interesting statistics here. So Clay and TJ now tied for the 2nd most series wins in Legion history. It's remarkable to think that Clay and TJ haven't been on this organization for that long, really, but they've still got the 2nd behind Temp, which is kind of incredible because no other team before, I mean, they've won 12 series this year, which actually is a record for the Paris Legion, which is, or for the Legion general, which is kind of tragic in a way. And also Legion have now got to 12 wins with TJ Halley, which means he's the only player in franchise history in the CDL era to have more than 10 wins on 4 different organizations: OGLA, LA Thieves, Boston, and now Legion. So pretty cool stat for TJ to hold, and his search and destroy is obviously the difference maker for him. And we look at the overall numbers. Clay had a great series again. This guy has really been putting the team on his back when he can. But yeah, Standy I think think was big in the map 4 and map 5 as well. Standy came good when it mattered to get them over the line. So massive 10 points for them. We've also got to discuss then their potential rivals, Toronto Ultra, that they play next time out, next Friday, I believe it is, April the 14th, of course. And they massively needed this win. They were 0-3 going into this game against Florida. This was, I mean, if they lost this series against Florida, they would have been 0-4, guaranteed losers. So they needed to win this with a good map count. I said it earlier today, a 3-1 or a 3-0 realistically was what they needed here, and they got the job done. Scrappy was just absurd this series, right? It must be said, there are still some flaws in the gameplay here from the Toronto guys. There's no doubt about it. They won the hardpoint, they almost 100-point clubbed them. The game 2 search, I think, was like 6-2, so yeah, they came good when it mattered. And Insight, I don't know how he managed to pull this one off, to be honest. Don't know what Florida are thinking, but 1v3 goes his way and even flies out the winner, but it doesn't matter at that point because there's no time to defuse the bomb anyway. Brak goes down, but he doesn't go down, but he stays alive. Doesn't matter though. Brak goes down to Insight in that situation. The 1v3 is a difficult one in a way, but realistically, they should never be losing it. They need to get closer at that time. Capsule was left all alone, and Insight was just given the chance to win it. And then the control, this went all the way to around 5. Expo control, of course. Pretty interesting to see this map be played a couple of times today, and it did go round 5. Florida actually looked okay here. Maybe a map that Toronto don't have too much experience with, but Hicksy died 38 times. Now, this is like an absurd number of deaths in control. 19 and 38 he went here. He almost dropped to 40 deaths, and they were getting outside pretty heavily, and somehow Ultra clutch up here in the end, and they deliver the goods on the offense to get the job done in round 5. So big performance from them, but it must be said, right, Hicksy is an important part of their team, an important part of their success. Obviously enables their other players to play better, but it's got to be said, when they're getting outslayed as they were here heavily, and Hicksy almost has 40 deaths, like that's just not a sustainable winning strategy or, you know, winning KD ratios against the better teams. It is going to come back to bite you, especially online. So I think it does make a very interesting series when it comes down to their Vegas game next Friday, right? Because Ultra are clearly vulnerable here. Yes, they 3-0'd them, and it was an impressive 3-0 at that, and Hicksy was like, finally here we got on the board, and even Scrappy here says the same thing, but it's got to be said, they are looking pretty vulnerable, especially online. Hicksy is dropping bad numbers every single series. Cap says no words other than depressing, but we know Florida aren't particularly good, especially in, well, their search is pretty terrible, and their respawns actually haven't been good either. But yeah, Scrappy a 1.5 KD, but another 0.75-ish for Hicksy. Like his, I mean, I think out of what, the 11 series he's played for Ultra, he's gone positive in one of them. So, you know, it can happen, and you can get away with it when CleanX is on fire or when Scrappy is on fire. But against teams like Florida, you would think that that's where Hicksy would drop at least a 0.9 or 0.95 or something. And if that's not the case, especially against decent slaying teams, Toronto, I think, are vulnerable because at the end of the day, KD does matter to a certain extent. It's not the be-all and end-all. There is obviously far more to the playstyle, but fundamentally, slaying does matter, especially in control, as we just saw. Like, they were getting outside heavily and required a big setup to get the job done there in that round 5. So many interesting questions for Ultra to answer, but they do keep their dreams alive. And yeah, they need to beat Vegas next Friday to try and get through to winners, and Vegas obviously will want to beat them as well. So here we go then, OpTic versus Thieves, a match I was looking forward to all weekend long. Thought it was potentially going to go down to the wire in a game 5. It looked like it was going to go the distance after the way map 4 started, but wow, what a performance from OpTic Texas. I thought if there was any team in the game right now that could give them a good run for their money in hardpoint, it was Los Angeles Thieves, and to be honest, it wasn't even particularly close. Let's dive straight into it. The series in terms of maps to start with, I thought was pretty interesting, and in part OpTic favored. I mean, I wasn't sure about, well, I don't know really. Looking at the Fortress search, I felt like both of the search and destroys, certainly map 2 search, I felt like OpTic should be favored there. Expo control, wasn't really sure what to think because we know that both Thieves and OpTic have said they like that map a lot online in scrims, and we'll discuss that when we get to it. But the respawns, I thought, you know, the hardpoint is so good for OpTic that it was like they were never going to lose both hardpoints in the series. OpTic, it was either going to be 1-1 or a 2-0, I thought, at the very least, and they came out swinging game 1. I thought it was pretty funny they put Standy up for Drazah real quick. We shortly got that fixed, but look at this, right? Going into this map set in this stage, they were, I mean, look, Thieves 5-0 in hardpoint, averaging plus 122. OpTic 3-0 in hardpoint, averaging plus 126. Similar team KD, OpTic's hold percentage very high indeed. So this really was the battle of the titans in this mode, and we know that FaZe, their hardpoint isn't so good. We know Toronto are faltering a little bit lately. If there's any top team, I mean, Subliners lost them the other day, maybe Surge, maybe Boston, I'd like to see how they'd match up in hardpoint, but we've seen what OpTic have done to those teams recently as well. chucking them in the 100-point club or pretty much on Fortress at the Major. So Thieves were going to be a real challenge. We know OpTic don't play Thieves in scrims, haven't done so for like a month and a bit, so we didn't really know how they were going to play. But game one, immediately, there was a big lead being opened up here. This was a bit of a troll actually by Thieves. There were lots of moments by Thieves where they did make mistakes here in their holes, but I don't think this was just Thieves playing poorly at times. I think OpTic, honestly, the way they play forces mistakes. Maybe just the fact that Thieves are playing OpTic made them not quite play their normal game, but when you're playing OpTic, it's an entirely different level you have to play to in your respawn modes, especially in the hardpoint, and Thieves just couldn't quite make it happen at times. OpTic ran away with the game one, 250 to about 155, and that's a clobbering, to be honest, right? If you're beating teams at less than 100 points, you're probably not even playing perfect hardpoints, they're just playing terribly, right? 250 to 0 isn't the perfect game, because to achieve that, you've got to be soaking up all the scrap time, which you don't necessarily need, and then immediately breaking, right? So, a perfect game of hardpoint is always going to have some points to the other team, and honestly, beating a team by 100 is pretty much a drubbing. And okay, they were making some plays early on, but I mean, wow, the end of this game, again, it was another OpTic situation where it's the second half of the game, they really turned the screw. They did it this game, they did it map 4, and it was Huke individually, right? And yesterday we discussed Ghosty, and we said, wow, since Shotzzy has kind of, but stepped back from the IGLing stuff, because iLLeY wasn't really doing it, it felt like towards the end of his tenure, and Ghosty stepped up into that role. Shotzy's got a lot better, but the same can be said for Huke. The more he plays, the better he seems to get, and just yesterday we said, well, if Ghosty's playing like this, what about the whole OpTic Sib thing in the off-season? Probably not going to happen, but if Huke's playing like this, then the same question is asked of the rest of this roster, because right now, I think they're the best team in the game, OpTic Texas. Yes, it's online, I want to see it on LAN, but they were second at the Major, and they're top of the standings right now, comfortably in Major 4 qualifiers. I think they have to be considered the number one team in the game. So yeah, Huke the Nuke was delivering the goods. 250, 151 or whatever. I was not expecting it to be that comfortable game one. In game two, again, OpTic on the Fortress Search and Destroy. Thieves, I don't know what they're doing, but their Search and Destroy play is straight up poor. This was embarrassing though, to be honest. Just miscommunication, I guess, here from Thieves, because look, they've got 45 seconds to stop Huke. They know he's here, they know he's looking at this, and Kenny decides, you know what, I'm going to fly out. I guess he was expecting Octane to peek this angle just as he flew out, but you can see how kind of Huke strafes behind this pillar type thing, so he kills Kenny. There's no trade in sight from Octane, and then he snakes him, and then he gets the dub. So, unlucky, that's the way the game is played nowadays, but still, the mistake from Kenny, he got like 2 team kills this game as well, and he trolled that one. They just needed to buy their time there, Thieves, but, man, they went down 5-1, that was quickly over, and even as Major Maniac says, the right environment is so important, and that applies so well to this Huke case, where he looks like an entirely different player now with players that he enjoys playing with, and could get the best out of him compared to what he was experiencing before. So Huke, 10-1 in the map 2 Surge, that's a 2.3 S&D KD from in stage 4, that's remarkable to start with. Now the Expo control was pretty interesting, right? OpTic seemed a bit lost on this one. I still do think this map is pretty good actually, I've enjoyed watching it so far. Thieves just seem to have a better idea of how to control parts of the map. We know that Thieves were one of the early adopters of this map, and they very much liked it. OpTic say they also like it as well, but I'm sure OpTic will look at this and think, okay, we've got a lot to learn here, because Thieves were clearly the more organised and coordinated team. Won this one 3-0. OpTic just didn't seem to like stacking the point there for some reason. There were some opportunities, so still some work for OpTic to do, and I thought the same thing against their series with the subliners when they lost the game 2 Surge. Like, it's good that OpTic are losing maps at least, because by losing maps, they know that there's still things they've got to work on, but their hardpoint certainly does not need any more work, because these guys are ridiculous at it. And game 4, with Thieves now having the momentum, dominating OpTic 3-0 in the control. Thieves never go down without a fight. It's very rare you're going to 3-0 Thieves, especially Kenny on an individual level will almost always play very well against OpTic. Okay, he had a bit of a rough map 2 and map 1, but game 4, game 3, he really did turn up. And look at this advantage, right? 101 to 85. They held a fair bit of time here, Los Angeles Thieves, but again, it's that second rotation that OpTic just come diffy on. And okay, a few moments where Thieves kind of trolled the setups, but even OpTic right there, the perfect setup for the building on the south side of the map, one of the hard points over there. They got broken 4 dead in a heartbeat, and it felt like, okay, Thieves might do this, take it to a game 5, but no, towards the end of the game, it was so well played. The holds from OpTic was so well played, and this is what we know OpTic have been capable of. When they were playing hardpoint and they were going rogue and they were getting the kills, and then it would come down to a crucial situation where they would just go one step too far and die. They're not doing that anymore. I saw Shotzzy make a play mid-map where he was holding the lanes. He was holding the rotation. Shotzzy number 6 arrow here. He kills number 3 Kenny, and I think Shotzzy of maybe a couple of months ago would have gone there, died, and let the flank in. But Shotzzy knew that was when to slow down, get the kill, and deliver the job. I mean, like, he was so important this map here for, well, their success. I mean, Shotzi's ridiculous on these maps anyway as it is, and they closed out the game. Yeah, there were some questionable plays from Thieves, but I think OpTic forced their hand. And to go 2-0 against a Thieves team, that to me were looking like, outside of OpTic, the best hardpoint team. Yesterday I discussed it, right? I thought OpTic was the best hardpoint team after yesterday's performance, but I was like, if there's one team that can prove me wrong, it's Thieves, but they failed to deliver on that. So an incredible performance, so much to take away from this going forward, but it's Huke with a 1.22, Octane had a great series as well, Kenny turned up towards the ends, Envoy with a bit of a rough one, which is uncharacteristic for him as of late, but yeah, wow, what a performance from OpTic Tectors, and yeah, in my opinion, with the way they're playing and with the other teams around them not looking so good, they're going to have to be the favourites going into the major if they can keep up this form. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below, hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.